So the next thing, man, we got to talk about is the homie Troy Polamalu officially selecting who is going to be presenting him. And ladies and gentlemen, that person is the legendary Coach Hall of Famer in his own right, the OG himself, Coach Deke LeBeau. And I must say, I am extremely happy to see that, man. It made perfect sense. When I think about those two guys, man, being fortunate enough to see those guys in the working capacity for a season in 2014, seeing their dynamic, the trust that they had, that was the crazy part. Because with legendary coaches like Deke LeBeau, I mean, you think about the different players that he's come across, great players, right? Guys that he's really been able to put his hands on and help mold. And obviously he played the game at a high level in his own right.
Yeah.
But to see him be able to imprint on a guy like Troy, and Troy blossom into who he's become, but then even in the waning hours of Troy's career, him still having that love and trust for Coach LeBeau, and LeBeau, like I said, reciprocating that and sending it back to him in terms of, yes, Troy, man, if you feel like you can do this, man, I know people around here might be doubting you, but if you feel like you can get it done, I believe you can get it done. Let's do it. Like, to me, man, that was one of the things that I always was fond of. I'm like, even if it didn't work out, because obviously in 14, that was the back end of it. So sometimes it didn't work out.
Yeah.
But to see that, man, they never allowed anything to come between that bond right there, I thought it was beautiful, man. And, man, shout out to Coach LeBeau also, because he has one of my favorite quotes, man. Every time we'll come out to practice, he hit us with the, it's a great day to be alive, man. And I'm like, you know what, Coach? It is a great day to be alive. And when you, and the more I would think about it, knowing how old he was at the time, I'm like, it makes sense. I see why you take every day like this. Like, and he was like the most young, vibrant, old guy you would meet. Like, he feel like he one of the boys. Like, that's the energy that Coach LeBeau gives, man. So the fact that he will be presenting TP at the Hall, man, it's huge, man. So I'm loving that, man.
So as I was doing some research just about this, because me as a kid growing up, Deke LeBeau was the defensive coordinator for those 2 Super Bowl teams. He was head of the defense. The defenses were always incredible. I didn't really know too much about him. I just knew, all right, this defense is always going to be awesome, and Deke LeBeau's heading it up, so we got to give our salutes to him. Because he made it through with Cowher, and then Tomlin keeps him as a defensive coordinator too. So he was the staple there for all of those great defenses that we had in the late to mid 2000s. But as I'm doing some of this research, it goes back to what you're saying. All the players loved him just as a man too, not only just
so
as an amazing coach. They speak so highly of him as this defensive super genius. That's what Ike Taylor says, but also as like this, just a man, like a father figure to everyone.
Absolutely, man. That's the thing that does separate Coach LeBeau from a lot of other coaches. Number one, the part where I've never seen him have to yell at people. Like, you mess up, man, you want to just like go high to it because you feel so crushed that you let him down, because like the way he talks to you, bro, it's like when he communicates like, hey, Arthur, like when you didn't contain this rush right here, like I really was counting on you. Like I really thought that you were going to be able to do this.
That's tough.
And he's like, I've seen you do it. That's the thing. Like, I know some people around here might question, can you do it? But I've seen you do it. I've seen you do it here. I've seen you do it in Buffalo. Like, you're capable of being a better player than this. I'm just like, God, dog, Coach, like, I'm sorry. like, Coach, man, please forgive me. Like, I just feel so crushed that I let you down. But that's his vibe. And it didn't matter if you were an all-pro. Didn't matter if you were a starter, if you were a practice squad guy. Like, if he calls on you, man, he knows you. He has a personal relationship with each and every player on that defense. It was just a cool thing to see, man. You literally come in there and it's like, you can just sit here for hours and just talk to Coach LeBeau and not have to say anything related to football. He's going to have something to talk about.
That 08 Steelers defense, I just want to make this comment. That might be the best defense of all time.
It's in the conversation.
It's definitely the best that I've ever seen. But I was doing some research, man, based off the time, the era that NFL was being played in that 08 season compared to some of the other great defenses in the past. It kind of holds up because the passing yards and just the offensive statistics.
No, it was crazy, bro.
Compared to like in the 70s. So like the raw statistics aren't completely in the 08 Steelers' favor, but whenever you do some of those analytic things and weigh this era versus that era, Steelers are up there, man. That 08, that was just crazy.
I look at it like this, man. I feel like anytime we're talking about comparing that 08 defense, they're always in the conversation. I just feel like you're never going to be able to find the true number one, regardless of what era they played in, because the eras did switch. So we always are going to have to try to account for something or grade with this curve or this caveat, because it's not all going to be equal. Like the 70s versus the 80s versus the 90s. I mean, you think about 2000 to 2010 versus how it is now, like how the game is just shifted. So, but that 08 defense was insane.
I mean, it was the best I've ever seen. It was the best I've ever seen.
Like for me, I always think of them. I think of the Baltimore. What's that?
2000.
Yeah, I think of that team.
85 Bears were in the mix.
Absolutely, and obviously you got the OG Steelers too. The was it 70?
They said 76.
Or I thought 75 was the better year, though, right?
No, hear me out on this. Statistically, the 76 was the best Steelers defense. They didn't win a championship that year.
Right.
I think the 91 Eagles are in that conversation too, based off raw statistics. Yeah. But they didn't win a championship either. So like the two teams that won the championship, or a couple of those teams have won the championships, but since the 08 Steelers defense did win, and you combine like that era, like that weighted era stat that I was talking to you about, there's a good case. There really is.
Man. Look, anytime we're putting the Steelers in a positive light, I'm all for it.
Because I mean, can you be the greatest defense without the shit? That's the question.
Well, see, for me, this is the part where I don't like to talk about where I was at beforehand in terms of like my fanhood. I told you growing up for me, like, I was a diehard Cowboys fan, but why I wore 52. We talked about why I was wearing the number 52 as Ray Lewis. The Ray Lewis that I met was in 2000. That Super Bowl, that team there. So for me, I always viewed them as like the best team. And I was like, hey, Steelers, y'all in the conversation, but y'all want them. But then obviously once I came part of the Steelers, I had to flip-flop. But I just still, I don't feel like I can say it with the same conviction. So that's why I was just leave it as, we don't know who's number one. All right, they're in the conversation. Everybody's in the conversation. We'll just leave it at that, man. Because that 2000,
you could just say that was my favorite defense growing up. I don't think anyone.
I can't say that because I'm a Steeler. I can't say it. It's a bad look. You can't be a part of the Ratbirds. Like, come on, bro. Yeah.
What did you think of the selection? I mean, obviously you said Deke LeBeau, like that's a no-brainer. Did you have anyone in mind that was maybe like number 2 or 3 would have been in the conversation?
Well, I thought you could potentially see Bill Cowher because he drafted Troy. So I was maybe he goes that route. But as a whole, I thought it was always going to be Deke LeBeau.
Okay.
Like, it's certain players, they just, like, that's his guy. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's his guy. No,
it made sense when it happened. Yeah. I just didn't know maybe if there was a sleeper pick that we weren't thinking of.
Well, it got me thinking in terms of like if Hines were to get, because Hines is presenting Faneca, right? So it got me thinking, well, if Hines were to get in, who would present him? Like
that was a smart pick, by the way.
Oh, it is absolutely.
There was some savviness to that.
You know what's going on with that?
To get Hines up.
Yes, we know exactly what that is. I love it. It's a vet move. Shout out to Faneca. It's a vet move.